Oh, we're live. Well, this is the remainder show, folks. uh, I got sort of drafted in here, not knowing really the whole context, but it seems like there's been some discussion going on about ways to collaborate together. And that's a really difficult concept to get across because as we talked about it, people dropped out.
No, first they wanted to do it.
Yes.
And, and we have to say this was after the last panel discussion of the Conscious Aging series. We had 13 people, I think, in the green room, and about half of them wanted to collaborate and reignite the topic. And then when finally we found this date of today, which actually is almost 2 months later, it has lost the energy. But we are here. I'm Heidi, and this one
Mark,
is Mark. And then we have, going from the left to the right, Lowell Ann from Canada. And British Columbia. And Monika Frühwirth from
Vienna, Austria.
Vienna, Austria. So, and we have chosen for
where are we from?
We are from... I'm from Germany, and you are from Wisconsin.
Well,
but we are
America.
Yeah. We are in Italy, so we are a little bit international in this case. So we have chosen for this call, for this talk, the title "Conscious Living." Before it was conscious aging, and now we are going a little broader into conscious living. And so the question would be, what is your idea of conscious living? It's an easy question, no? Because it's very...
Let me start, because I already told you that I have been flooded with texts and literature on mysticism. So I guess to me, somebody who is... once it was said that to be a Christian, you have to be a mystic. And now I believe that to be a human being, you have to be a mystic. And this is really quite exciting for me at my age. I'm really thrilled. And as I talked to you before, I read a beautiful article in Evolve magazine about a German, I believe, who builds violins, and he does it as a prayer, as a mystic offering to God, and he calls everybody an instrument. So I was wondering, what instruments are we, and how do we sound together? What is the accord in the distance? Because if you have several notes at the same time, it has to be a distance. And we are rather distant in Canada, in British Columbia, in Rome.
Okay.
So, yeah, how do we sound together, the four of us?
Are we discordant?
We will see.
Yeah.
Let's first talk, Lowell, Ann, about that.
Well, first of all, my question right away to Monika is, what do you mean by mystic?
Everything that's not gross, body, subtle, non-dual awareness. So it's a kind of awareness that sees beyond, let's call it like this. But I was told that you are singing in a choir, a quite big choir. So you must be familiar with that.
Yes. When you define it, I totally get it. Because the reason I needed to ask is that sometimes mystic, that word here anyway.
Oh, I know. Okay.
It's used in a different way. So the way you describe it, that works for me. But when you said, how do our voices sound together? Of course, I'm looking, immediately what jumps to mind is harmony. Because of working in the choir.
Yeah.
We are 4-part, well, actually, it's almost like a 5-part choir, because this choir also has female tenors. Mm-hmm. So there are male tenors and female tenors and the others that you're used to hearing. And the thing that I love about it is that you've got all that total variety of voices. Mm-hmm. The high, the low, the middle, the male, the female. I mean, you've got the whole 9 yards. So the harmony and I guess what pops for me beyond harmony is the concept of community.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But you have to train for it, right?
No, this choir.
Is it just?
This choir is an unauditioned choir, founded on the belief that anyone can sing.
Okay.
So, but I mean, that's an interesting question. I mean, if we think about being a mystic, according to your definition, my observation is that it all comes down to some sort of a personal awareness, doesn't it? Mm-hmm. And in my work, I discover that there are many people that have no personal awareness at all, other than just kind of automatic reactions to things. For example, if I ask a new client, how would you define your value system? They usually can't answer that.
I see.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So perhaps it does take a little bit of training, some sort of exercises that help us develop that awareness. Yeah.
Right.
Good. Now I would like to ask you. I hear an echo. Maybe you need to mute yourself when you are not on. Okay.
What do you want to ask?
We are starting. They went even immediately into music and violins and singing and harmony. But when you hear conscious living, what would you understand about that?
I guess I mean what springs to mind. I'll say. I won't say what I mean. What comes to mind is being able to live not strictly in the gross world, but having connections with the subtle and perhaps even to the causal, in time, etc. Because I find that the gross world by itself is not very satisfying, and I need to get into another state of consciousness to get perspective, to get really honest with myself, to remove myself from the confines, the restrictions of conventional reality of the society around me, of the normal everyday things, and I don't want to put those down at all, because I think the better I get at the additional levels, the better I am in the real world. The real world, that's a misnomer, I think. In the conventional world, in those worlds where, like you said, if you asked Lowell and your client how do they describe their values, they can't. Well, of course, that's the case with most of the people we meet all day long.
Do you know your values?
Oh, no, I would really have to think about that. There's things I treasure and demand, you know. And one of those is to live some of the time in another realm, in another world. And of course, there's always good stuff like love, community, learning, curiosity, all of these kind of open-ended approaches. The world that doesn't really have any limits. I think of my friend John Freeman, who wrote the book called The Science of Possibility. You know, what better science could there be than that? So I absolutely need it. If I were restricted to the world that I knew, as a teenager, I'd go mad. Yeah.
Okay, before I give over to you, I want to say something too, because I see that there is sort of a difference in understanding consciousness, no? And this is what, how is she called? The scientist, the woman? Is pointing out so clearly that consciousness is understood in spiritual ways and in other ways, in psychological ways. I've forgotten how she's called.
I really don't know who you mean.
The woman we have listened so often to.
Judith, not Judith, but...
yeah, well, we might find it. Anyway, she is very interesting.
But she's really good.
She is a hardcore scientist, but she is teaching about consciousness and makes it very clear that it is two different meanings for different people. And I see that coming out here too. Because when I want to talk about consciousness, for me, first of all, is being conscious of what you are doing, being aware of what you are doing, being conscious of the values, being conscious of your integrity or not integrity, what does is things, your behavior matching your values and things like this. So I take more the psychological definition of consciousness, to be aware of what is going on around me. And I'm not aware of many things, you know, you can't, because there's so many information coming in. But at least as far as your personal life, be conscious of what you are doing, what you are saying, what consequences it can have, what you have done in before, and what you are living now, the consequences of what has been in the past. And yeah, the other spiritual part is there too, but it's for me a different way of consciousness. So when I talk of consciousness, it's more that one, the psychological. Okay, now I give over to who?
Well, when you ask the question, what does conscious living mean? The first thing that jumps to me are the 4 quadrants, being, you know, an awareness of what's going on in the 4 quadrants. So conscious meaning awareness. And I think I'm sort of on your page, Heidi, because being conscious is, to me, is a little bit different from consciousness. And I put a sort of a spiritual spin on that word as well. Yeah. So I suppose we could say consciousness is about awareness, or conscious is about awareness, and consciousness is about spirituality. I guess that's the way I would kind of put it. Yeah.
Because you mentioned the 4 quadrants, I guess we are talking Wilber.
Yeah, I was.
Well,
anyway.
many people don't know the map for consciousness, and I always like to do some advertising for this map, because it really helps you stir things much easier.
Yeah, you describe it in 2 minutes.
Good luck.
Well, everybody has an interior and an exterior, an individual and a collective consciousness. And they all come together at the center of your being, which might be your ego, because it stirs you through everyday life. And of course, after some time, you develop, and it's not just vertical, it's also horizontal. So your consciousness gets wider and wider. This is color-coded, and but it just implies that what you know, you transcend and include.
This is also already a little bit technical, no? What you
Transcend.
Yeah, I know, but before I knew Wilberese, I didn't know really what that means. When you can tell maybe you know something, you learn to walk as a baby, no? And then you go ahead, you have another task. You know, you go to school and have to learn to write. But this is not that you forget walking. You are not anymore concerned so much with walking because it's there, it's included. And then that's as an example for what transcend and include mean.
Yeah, maybe even start earlier. First you crawl on all four. And once you learn to stand up, you transcend crawling. Of course, you still can do it.
We don't like to crawl anymore in our age.
It's very good for your back, being on all fours, let me tell you. Okay.
That's good.
So I guess that was just the Wilber insert.
And I would say that what you said, the 4 quadrants, that these are, let's say, aspects of reality which manifest at the same time. Also, we normally put focus on one. When we feel what we are feeling, we are focusing inside, but we are still there, you know. So the outside is still there, and we are still part of the family or something, you know, and we have still this body as it is, but we are focused on the inside. And if you have another example to explain what the 4 quadrants mean, because I really find it difficult for people who have never heard about it to understand in technical terms what it is. We need examples.
Well, each of the 4 quadrants is your perspective on life. And of course, this includes also your values, because these transcend and include. I'm sorry. You have 1 quadrant on the interior side. That's a we space. The we space is defined by culture, and of course also by interaction, by communication. If you don't have communication, you probably won't have a we space. So this is why I find these talks very important, because we communicate. Of course, there is just an ordinary we space, and there is also a higher we space, which you usually reach by meditations and guided meditations. We did that at the European Regathering, a beautiful heart meditation, back to back with somebody. And if you look at the faces, they are just glorious. You're in this space, you're just open, relaxed, and I wish I could be back there right now. It was just great.
Turn your chair around.
You're offering your back? Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, and on the so these are the interior side quadrants. On the exterior side, you have whatever can be measured. It's not just your height and your weight, it's your age. And of course, that's also very subjective, because at my age, I still know there is a 15-year-old and I just love her. So in this quadrant is also energies, like subtle energies, because subtle energies can be measured. It's not just that centimeters, it's also, you have all these neurological measurements now. You can see what happens in your brain when you meditate. So that's a different energy. So subtle energies are also in the in this quadrant. And then, of course, there is the collective. And right now we are in the information age collective. And what we are doing here right now is just to the point. You can't do it any better. Okay. No more questions, please.
Okay. All right.
So, Lowell, and I think we have sort of interrupted you. Go ahead with your thought.
Well, I was just going to say, yes, I agree that so many people find Wilber's quadrants confusing, but when they get it, man, it just kind of blows your mind. And I have been using it in my coaching, and I've actually designed a program using it as well. How to well, I call it what's next. So how to put your retirement together. So what's next? Like when you retire from your main career, you've got a bunch of years left on this planet. What are you going to do with it? And I find there are lots of people who are in that place. And I found those 4 quadrants is a wonderful way to help people sort of determine where they have been and what about their whole life is in all of those quadrants, but then what's not there yet. So what do I need to do in each one of those quadrants to move forward? So I've found that the clients that it's a new program, but the clients that I have used it with find it's really works for them. So I mean, it's a way of it's a way of being aware, isn't it? That's why we call it conscious aging or conscious living, whatever. It's awareness and being aware of those internal and external and so forth. I mean, it's a wonderful way to be aware of what is going on in my life. Yeah, and where do I want it to go? So.
Training awareness. Do you do that as well?
Sorry, I didn't catch
with your clients, do you train their awareness?
Well, no, I wouldn't say I'm training their awareness. What I do is lead them through an awareness exercise. Whether I would say I'm training them in that way, I haven't thought about it that way, but maybe that's the end result. Yeah.
Well, I just became aware of the fact that the awareness, it's not just a witness, as Wilber also calls it, but that's something that continues. Your moods change, different states, but awareness, when you really train it, will continue. That's the one thing that continues. And although everything else changes all of the time, your awareness stays. And
so I would say also here is to make a difference what you mean with awareness. Because awareness, for instance, we were talking today about that I'm become rather good in not be aware of disturbing noises, because otherwise I cannot sleep. Before I was always, nervous when the cars went around. I mean, here is silent, but when I was in a place with loud noises, as it was in my childhood and also later. And now I have learned to train my awareness to keep out something of the awareness. Yeah. So, and you probably talk about awareness, let's say, as such, as the ability or the background of being aware. Is that what you mean, Monika?
Yeah, but with regard to noises, in spiritual training, you at a certain stage, you are able to blend out noise. And that's quite something I enjoy very much, because we have much construction noise around here, and it's actually a very quiet area. So blending out noise in your awareness, by your awareness, yeah, that's quite a feat to accomplish. And my husband, he is like a watchdog at night. And we had quite some thunderstorms the last couple of nights, but I just blended them out. I was sound asleep and he walked around, and there were the lightnings and the thunder. I just slept. So it's rather convenient to be able to do that.
So being able to turn it off and on at will. It's interesting. I hadn't thought of awareness quite that way before.
Well, I'm thinking there's a kind of pre-awareness and a post-awareness at work here. I think of one of our cats who, because of special dietary needs, we feed him in the bathroom, okay, where we can control who's there and what they're eating. And if I flush the toilet when he's in there, in the beginning, he would just have to go crazy, you know? And now it doesn't bother him at all. He's not aware of it. He hasn't turned it off. He's just gotten used to it. And that's one kind of control that we have, a kind of psychological becoming accustomed to situations where people in big cities can tolerate all kinds of noise and not be bothered by it. It's not that they've necessarily, Monika, made any spiritual progress. It's just that they're used to city noises. So there's that way of working at it too. But also, you know, to train myself not to be upset when the dog inside just explodes into a bark. Bah! You know, which just, I have the greatest trouble not just jumping when he does that. This takes discipline, practice. It's a whole nother level of
I was just thinking back now. We once went to Athens in Greece, and the hotel was called Harmonia, but it was right under the flight line of airplanes. And after my husband had a conference there, and I was reading Gene Roberts. And after the first night, I said, well, I'll go back to Vienna. I can't stand it here. And I was lying there next to the pool, and there were the birds chirping so loud, and somebody turned on the engine going up the hill, and people talked about opera, and they had the radio and the opera. And I just pulled a blanket over my head and went into some very strange kind of trance. And from that moment on, I blended out noise. So later on, I found out that this is an accomplishment you do at a certain stage. I didn't know it then. But actually, when you're really pushed to an edge, maybe then you have to transcend it. That's my theory. I don't know, but afterwards I read about it, of course. I always read afterwards what happened to me. And so, yeah. But that's we're talking about a different kind. You also have a cell awareness of your body. And that's different from your consciousness. So
that's what a question. Do we have the cell awareness, or has the body the cell awareness? Who has the self-awareness.
Do you have your body? Are you your body? Or what?
Exactly. Because certain things I can feel very strongly in my body, but I cannot really say that I feel the cells growing and dying and all this stuff, you know. But I can feel the vibrations. I can feel a whole lot of stuff. But
well, luckily you don't feel yourselves. I guess we would go mad if we would do that. Yeah.
Exactly. Actually, yes, that's true. I mean, countless activities are going on in our bodies all the time, and 99+ % with no awareness on our part whatsoever. And probably good, because we'd probably try to manage it then and really screw things up. But all of this is body information, body wisdom, body intelligence, you know, which has been going on really, I don't know how long, 3 billion years?
And you know what? When he came 5 years ago, I said, you go with me to Pilates. And this is a different Pilates than it is in America. It's very sort of yoga and very meditative, let's say. But, you know, it is also connected to the breathing. And you said, oh, I didn't know all this about my body. You remember that? Now you are so used to it. That. You are so used to feel your body, but before you didn't.
That's true. Becoming aware of the body has been a real process, because so much of, shall we say, ordinary life is concerned with ignoring the body, you know. So you're doing what your head says you're supposed to be doing or whatever. Or if you're in the military, you don't want to feel what's going on. You want to just carry out the mission, do the job, etc. And that's very necessary in some situations and a terrible impediment in others. Yeah.
So I have a question. What's the difference between awareness and mindfulness?
And consciousness.
Yeah.
Oh boy.
Why? I would like to start with that what I have been told, what science tells me, that the brain isn't a sender, it's a receiver. So, what would you make of that with regard to consciousness, for example, or awareness? That's the question I ask.
And I try to give an answer, because right out of my verbal understanding of the words, without going to any theories or something, for me, being mindful means that what I do it with attention, and I do it in an aware mode, that I'm aware of what I'm doing, and then I am mindful. I know there are many other different definitions of that. And consciousness is something which is broader, more or less around that. It's the bed in which the processes are happening, let's say in this way. That's my idea.
Okay. Well, I was up on a very tall ladder yesterday, and I was extremely mindful of every move I made.
I'm sure you were.
And I don't want to live that way very long. You know, it's absolutely all consuming, you know, to be so terribly attentive. And I know that there's many cases where I'm inattentive and my balance is affected. I'm tripping over myself. I'm running into things that I don't see are there. So that's the other end of the spectrum. That's not good either, you know. That mindfulness.
Is it mindful or attention?
Yeah. I don't know. I wasn't trying to make a clear distinction. Mindfulness seems to imply careful attention.
But climbing up a ladder is in our age a great challenge. So you really have to have all your wits together when you do that. That's
So I think of
Are you
mindfulness.
alive?
I had muted you.
I'm sorry.
He said he felt very alive.
Yes, on the ladder.
No kidding.
Yeah.
I think of mindfulness as being in the moment, being in the now, totally,
Mhm.
Yeah.
with
I'm sure
awareness,
that's part of it.
with awareness and consciousness. Yeah.
Oh dear, we are defining one with the other somehow.
Yeah. Tautologies galore here. Yeah. I don't know how to answer all these questions, but that doesn't matter.
It's fun to explore them, though,
Mhm.
isn't it?
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Monika, what is yours?
what is my what?
Exactly.
Your definitions of attention, mindfulness, what else was it? Consciousness, and what was the other thing?
Well,
Attention.
consciousness to me is whatever there is. The all, that's consciousness. So there isn't anything that's not conscious. And to me, the plants are as aware of me when I talk to them than I'm aware of the plants on my balcony. But consciousness enlivens everything on this planet. So that's consciousness to me. It's like the fish that swims in the water. That's the way we swim in consciousness. That's consciousness to me. I don't know whether it's to you the same. And mind and awareness is that you become aware more and more and more of that fact. I hope that helps.
Yeah, and mindfulness,
Mhm.
what is that?
Well, mindfulness is what you need when you climb up a ladder.
Pay attention. Yeah.
Paying attention. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Oh, that's nice.
Do you want to add something, Lowell?
I was thinking about. I was trying to think of the author's name. There was a little book called The Power of Now, I think it was, and it was an exploration. Eckhart Tolle, yes, thank you. And it was a useful exploration for me. I guess, I mean, when you use the word now, you're sort of in the realm of time, I guess. So the importance of being able to totally let go of what's in the past. And to not be sort of worrying about what could happen in the future, to just be in the now and be aware of what's in the now. That's as I say this, I'm conscious that it's a very narrow definition, though, very, very narrow, because as I think about this whole kind of evolution and transcend and include, do we not carry with us what happened in the past? So I don't know that it's a terribly healthy thing to totally let go of the past. Maybe we can't let go of it 100%, but I guess if we're carrying any negative baggage from the past, that's a really good thing to let go of. So yeah, I hadn't. It's the first time I've thought about that, letting go of the past in relation to this transcend and include. Ooh, I have to stop and meditate on that a little bit. So yeah.
I come to understand that we are really we, you, me, you, the product of millions of years of past. So think that we just can let go of it. It's this let go in the moment to think about it or to consciously focus of it. I think this is possible, but not let go of the past in the sense of all this, what has created us, and
fall apart.
Psychological, physiological, in all realms. We are not just a creation of the moment, that's
So I mean, let's think about that. I mean, if you were thinking about being in the now, and you felt as though consciousness is being aware of what's going on in those 4 quadrants, that's a very expanded sense of the now, isn't it?
Yes.
A very expanded sense of the now.
But I could understand when they talk about, Eckhart Tolle talks about being in the now. It's really like, like an artistic process, that you are so absorbed in something that all the other things sort of fade away. Like Monika said, the noises, they are just not there. Then you are in this part where you are involved with, and that's all,
A flow state.
A flow state, something like a flow state.
Yeah,
It's almost like a state of creativity, isn't it?
It's like when you breathe out, before you breathe in, you are in the now. And when you breathe in, you get into the next now. So,
yeah.
And actually, it's eternity. The now is eternity. So it's...
when we want to split the hairs, until we realize that we are in the now is already past. Because it takes some time until we get it, what the present is. Then it's not present anymore. So it's a little bit tricky to talk about being in the now. I think other definitions, like Mark said, the flow state, I think this is maybe more precise. I don't know. What do you think, Monika?
Well, a flow state can take a long time, so you don't have to be in time, but you are in the now all the time. So,
exactly. That's what I think is meant with that, and not being at this, point just now.
Well, we took care of that. Yeah.
So what is conscious living? How do you live consciously? This is all, it's so difficult to get that, because when I ask you, how do you live consciously, seems to be something different than what does conscious living mean?
Oh gosh, it's a process. I suppose there's an end point, and some of us can get there eventually, perhaps. But I think for the vast majority of us, it's just a continual growth, expansion, reaching out, incorporating, integrating, reorganizing our past so it fits this new present that we're in, which means reframing what happened to us in the past, seeing it in a different light, not as a disaster that it felt like at the time, perhaps, but as something that has really promoted great growth. And it's a moving thing that you cannot grab onto and hold onto. It's just, it moves and moves and moves. And when we stop to think about it, it's already past, because I don't know what's going to come out of my mouth next. It'll probably be English, but I'm not sure what else I can say about it.
Everything you just said, for me, is bound up in curiosity.
Yeah, I love that word.
Me too.
I use it a lot.
Yeah, me too.
Well, that's when we get back to conscious aging. As long as you stay curious, you stay young. It's
Yeah.
Yeah. And conscious living, well, you can train, again, I'm with training, you can eat consciously, not gobble down what's on your plate, and you can go consciously.
You can do that consciously too. Gobble down.
I am a conscious gobbler. I utterly enjoy it. Just
Oh, that's a sub-personality of you, or a shadow, let me tell you that.
Shadow?
Because that's one of the things I'm grappling with all the time. But you can also go consciously to the bathroom. The Buddhists have mantras for going to the bathroom. So you can really train conscious living. And yeah, I don't do that. It's on the, the bathroom.
I don't recite bathroom mantras, no.
My first response is, what do I need to be conscious of? Just sit down and go, and feels good. Oh.
Yeah, no, I think we are still somehow with conscious in one meaning and then the other meaning, consciously gobbling down, this is the psychological meaning, and living conscious as in a conscious way, as Monika says, is the other meaning, which implies in a good way. Conscious implies there something which is good, or it's right, or something like that. No?
To us, it's to us, but maybe to somebody else, it may be like a corset, or just having to be aware all the time. That's, they don't like it. As I know many people who just would say, yeah.
Yeah, I can relate to that, because sometimes it's too much when you have to be aware all the time, and then you feel like overwhelmed about all the things which come in. So you consciously can limit what is streaming into, as you said, with the noises, for instance. No, so
I, for example, love getting into, I think, an alpha state where the monkey mind just runs wild. And it's such a show. It's such an entertaining state to be in, to just let that run without any conscious interference, without any effort, without any judgment of what comes up, what comes on, And I think monkey mind gets a really bad press in some respects. And that's a kind of consciousness too, just to watch the movie. Wow, my God.
I have in my, well, it's not an altar, but I have a pyramid of monkeys forming one pyramid. So this is how you train the monkey mind. I'm sorry. I'll next time I'll show it to you, because it's a very nice sculpture. Yeah, training the monkey mind. But you enjoy watching it.
Oh yeah.
Training to what? That's my question. To be less monkey, to be more reasonable, to be what?
To be aware of what you are thinking.
Yeah, that's what
I'm doing.
What he's doing when he is watching the scene, isn't he?
Oh yeah. Well, that's the other way to put it. Okay.
Okay.
So long as you don't believe what you are thinking.
This is important. This is important. Often, this is the only salvation, not to believe what you are thinking.
Don't believe everything you think. That's right. Okay, that's another question.
Yeah. So, how do you live consciously tonight? That's the final question. I mean, do you have the whole day to live consciously? No, we have only the evening.
Maybe 2.5, 3 more hours. That's it. Yeah.
Well, I hate to say this is taking it right down into the realm of away from consciousness, I guess. But I'm very conscious of all the things on my to-do list today. So I have. I'm always. I have something in mind where I'm going and all the steps that need to get there. So. So being aware of the overall intention, where I'm going, and what are the things that I need to do in order to get there. I guess that's another form of consciousness, isn't it? Wow. But it's I mean, I just saw your face. Oh my God, I wouldn't want to be there. But you know, I'm at the point in my life where I only do what's fun.
Right.
So if it's not fun, I don't want to do it.
Well, then there's a lot of things I have to make fun. No, really, because before the show, it had passed out of my mind that there was going to be this program tonight. I don't want to talk tonight, you know. And then on top of that, I was informed that we have another one coming up in half an hour.
Oh.
And I was looking forward to a nice evening, sitting back, watching a live interview between a couple people I really admire, and realizing that there wasn't going to be any time for that. No.
Too bad.
And to work on myself and change my attitude and decide that maybe this would be okay, and shit, it has been. Damn it. Yeah. Yeah. You know, and I'll have to do that again for the next activity.
Yeah.
Well, you have you have our heartfelt compassion, dear Mark.
So you're getting really good at reframing.
Instantly, you know, very, very quickly, compared to the things I would hang on to in the past, and just God, you know, just be miserable so much of the time, you know. Don't do that so much for so long, and that's good. Yeah, much better.
That means even if we are, in German we say alt wie eine Kuh, even if we are old like a cow, we can still learn was dazu, learn something in addition.
Yes, and we are all older cows than we used to be. Yeah.
Maybe we should talk about gender. So you call yourself a bull?
She said cow. Yeah. Generic.
What are you?
Old dog.
Okay, an old dog. He has found the way out.
Okay.
Anyway, I think it was a wonderful talk. It was fun, and I think we should repeat that. Whatever, if ever anybody will watch it or not, that's not the problem. It's just nice to explore these concepts, because it's really it's important that there is a big confusion about it. We didn't resolve it. I still don't remember the woman's name.
It wasn't Judith Glaser, was it?
No,
not Judith. No.
She is a physicist.
Yeah.
And shows up in high-class panels. And at the same time, she is a spiritual, let's say, almost spiritual teacher, I would say.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
I will find it out.
Yeah.
Well, Heidi, get your synapses firing again.
I have it. I see her, you know. Mm-hmm. I see her image in front of me, but the name doesn't come. Is it old age, or what is that?
The minute you stop trying to remember it, it will be there.
Probably. We have seen so many videos from her, so I should know that.
Me too, but the same block.
At the moment, I have Jordan Peterson here in my head all the time, and so I'm occupied with that. By the way, he is now doing a series about the meaning of the stories in the Bible. And this is so interesting. He's reconciling me with my religion, because it's not only Christian. No, it's also Hebrew with first book of the Bible. But I really, in my childhood, I was so distant from it, and the whole life. And I always said, if I go really into spirituality, it couldn't be Buddhism, because it's not my culture. And now I find finally somebody who can give me an access to our culture. This is really, I'm so grateful for that. So from a psychological standpoint, and I love psychology, so that's actually.
And he tells us how brilliant those old people were, those pre-scientific people, those, people trying to make sense out of life at a tribal level, etc., and what they came up with and invented. And we carry this with us. It's part of our cellular structure now.
And we think they are primitive.
Yeah, we think they're
and he is reconstructing my awareness of the past. So this is really, I appreciate that a lot. Come out of the arrogance of we are the greatest today. And even turquoise, at least we should be, because everything before is
coral. Yeah.
He is very good at mythology, and you always have the feeling that he's just thinking. He's teaching, he's thinking about things.
And this series of, I think, 10 lectures, he says he does it because he wants to think it out through.
Right. And that's what we do here. We think it out.
Exactly. And this is a good way, because alone I can think quite a bit, but it's not, for me, it's the creative space which makes it come, the ideas, And I would be glad if we do it again. I stop now the broadcast, and I thank you, girls, and I thank you, boy.
Oh. Okay.